Chapter 18. The air is on fire. The flame of humanity burns through the chill that comes from above. December 31st in New York, although located within the boundaries of winter, is never as cold as the thermometer reads. John had gotten into New York City 5 days ago. After searching the East Coast from top to bottom and finding no devil, he returned to the city that never sleeps to find an old friend. He knew exactly where to look. Getting off the 9 train at 27th and 7th Avenue, he walked over to 5th and started downtown. As he walked down the avenue, he could see the arch rise out of the ground. Behind it stood the massive trade towers, fitting into the sky like bricks laid by a master mason. He walked closer to the New York University campus. He walked into Washington Square Park and looked around. He couldn't see him anywhere. Tired from his walk, John sat down to think. It was while he was at NYU that he had met the poet. An angry youth at the time, he went by the name Fish and screamed every Tuesday night at a bar in Queens with his band. Fish didn't go to school. He waited tables on the East Side. A quiet man, John could tell that he was holding something inside himself. They met in the park how long ago? Fish found himself in the park on his days off. John found himself there whenever he had a break from classes. They had been sitting on the same bench one day. Fish staring out into the sea of people, John reading Rimbaud's A Season in Hell. John couldn't concentrate. He read the same line 4 times when he felt the eyes upon him. Looking up from his book, he saw the thin black man's eyes through the thin-rimmed glasses. They said nothing at first. Then Fish spoke. "That man saw the truth," he said casually. "Well," John said, "I don't really believe in hell, but if I did, this would probably be my description of it." He held up the book. Fish laughed slightly and shook his head. "You don't have to believe in hell. What he wrote holds true for here. He chronicled the epitome of pain and the highest points of ecstasy in Illuminations," Fish said. "And that's all he did. What is there after that?" John thought for a second. "The romantic perception of everything in between." "Why would he do that?" "Because it is the romantic in all of us that makes the world livable." But to someone who has realized the extremes and ultimates in this world, especially at a young age like Arthur there seems no need to pointlessly bring attention to the trivial pieces of life. John smiled and looked at his new friend, not knowing that he had just heard more words said by Fish than any other human who hadn't paid at the door. "You sound like you speak from experience." Fish took a deep breath and looked ahead again. "No, that's my problem. I speak of experience, thinking that if I give the right example, people will eventually catch on to what I'm saying." "And what are you saying?" Fish turned back to John. "That's a large can of worms you're opening." "So I'm a can opener. What is it you're saying to the world?" Fish smiled and leaned back on the bench. "That it's all pointless. That there may be reason and there may not. So why do we complicate our lives the way we do? We all have the same problem." "And what is that?" "We are all painfully separated from God, the divine, fate, chance, whatever the hell you call it. We each have our own unique path back to it. There is no one and only path. There is no preordained right or wrong. There is only what we think, what we do, and what we say. For everybody to think the same way is to dissolve us all back into God, and then we no longer exist. The reason we were separated from God in the first place was for communication, and it's so easy, because we're all basically saying the same thing. It's the semantics people get caught up in, the little variations that people disagree with. He hesitated a moment and looked out to the park. It's lose-lose, though. You speak the unbounded truth and you get shot or locked up. You give your own perception of it and half the world will argue with you. People get lost in their individual will outside of God and enjoy the confusion of miscommunicated thoughts and truths. Fish raised his eyebrows, surprised that he had actually heard his voice say all that. John threw his copy of the poem into his bag. Want to get a cup of coffee? Sure, Fish said, getting to his feet. What's your name? I'm John Coletta. He put his hand out and shook it. And you? I'm Fish. All right, Fritz. I know where we can get some coffee. They walked out of the park and to the East Village, with Fish mumbling under his breath, Fritz.